Hey guys, how you doing today? This is Bill. I'm going to be talking today about how to sand a piece of wood in order to paint it or to put like a polyurethane on it or a clear coat. So the first thing you do, you get your wood. Usually, you know, this is a 2x6 piece of wood. But as you can see, they don't come in 6 inches anymore. They're like 5 1/8 or something like 5 1/2, 5 5/8. They consider this a 2x6 piece of wood. So nowadays, I'm just letting you know that the wood isn't, if you need a 2x4 or a 2x6, they're smaller than what they actually are, just so you know, just to give you a heads up. But getting back to the sanding and painting, what you do is you just get your raw piece of wood like this. You take a rough coarse, probably 80 grit sandpaper, or this is called block sponge sandpaper, 80 grit, and you can pick that up at any one of your hardware stores, Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace, anyone like that. You want to usually start with the coarser grit, which is the lower number grit, because it's a lot more aggressive, a lot more abrasive, and it'll take a lot more off. So what you want to do is start with the 80 grit piece of sandpaper. You can either get in a piece like this, or I like these sponge sanders. This is 80 grit, and what you do is you take your go with your sandpaper, go with the grain of wood, you sand it all down, you do the entire piece of wood so it's all semi-smooth to get a lot of the splinters off and stuff, the rough stuff, because you're doing 80 grit. And then you go behind, then next step you would do is you fill in all your cracks and your holes with like wood putty. So once you put the wood putty in and you get that all nice and dry and stuff like that, you go ahead and over it with a 150 grit. You do the whole piece of wood again, the corner and the edges, everything with the 150 piece of wood. You get it smoother like this, and then usually a lot of times you want a real nice smooth finish. You'll go to a like a 220. So all the sandpaper, usually the numbers are on the back of it. It's like 220, 180, 50, whatever. And like I said, the higher the number, the finer it is, the more smoother finish you'll get. And so you take your 220 and you go over lightly the whole piece of wood over again, and this will give you a nice smooth finish. It'll knock down all the fibers and so forth and so on. Go over the ends and the corners and everything else, however you want your corners, especially the corners. So most likely, like when you're finished sanding, what you'll do is after you sand the whole thing with the 220 grit, you just rub your hand over it and you make sure that there's no bumps, no splinters or anything like that. Make sure the entire piece of wood, whether it be a 2x4 or 2x6 or whatever, or a dresser, drawer, whatever, when it's nice and smooth to the touch, then you'll know it's ready for painting. All the holes are filled with wood putty, all the cracks are filled in and stuff like that. And also, if you want to keep the holes or the cracks or the grains of wood, you don't fill them in or anything like that, and it gives you more authentic finish and a nice cleaner look, like authentic. So, and then after it's smooth to the touch, you put your primer on it, and then you can put your first coat of regular paint on it. And then if you're going with a darker color, you'll probably want to put two coats on it, because it's would be a darker color and it's hard to hide. Usually with the darker colors you need two coats of paint instead of one. Alright? And that's for painting. Now when you're doing a polyurethane or a clear coat, what you do is the same thing. You start with your 80 grit, you sand a piece of wood down, you fill in your holes and your crack with your wood putty. And then you put your first coat of polyurethane on it, or your clear coat. Okay, and then after that first coat of polyurethane dries off, you go back again with a 220 grit, and you want to sand it lightly again after your first coat of polyurethane, because the polyurethane will actually pull the fibers of the wood up, and you actually have little wood sticking up like this. So you want to sand that all down with the 220. Then you put another coat of polyurethane on, or a clear coat. And then you sand it down again with a 220, or you can even go higher. This one here is a 400 grit, which is really fine. You can use this for your second sanding. So you put down your one per piece of coat, you sand it with a 220, you put your second coat down, you sand it with a 400. This will knock down all the little fibers, because every time you put the first set coat and the second coat of polyurethane, the fibers, it pulls the fibers out of the wood, because the polyurethane actually soaks into the wood and it pulls the fibers up. And then after you sand it down the second time with the 400, you put your third coat of polyurethane on and you should be good to go. That's about it today. I just wanted to give you a little helpful hint. I hope this helped you out. Don't forget to subscribe below, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below, or if you would like me to talk about anything, happy sanding.